All right, diving in. Today we're tackling everyday English phrases, but, and this is interesting, our source is TikTok.
Oh, really?
Yep, a viral video from a popular English tutor. And the comments, packed with insights from language learners all over.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like a sneak peek into how people learn languages online these days.
I mean, it's amazing how social media is changing the learning game, right? We're not talking dusty textbooks here. We're talking about real people using real phrases every day.
Exactly. And this video, it starts off with something we've all experienced, that total brain freeze when you just can't remember a simple phrase in a conversation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We've all been there. And it kind of highlights why mastering those really common phrases, those high frequency phrases, is so important. I mean, these are the phrases native speakers use all the time. They're like the key to fluency.
Right.
And even if you're already pretty advanced, brushing up on those can make your conversations so much smoother,
More natural.
way more natural.
So let's break down some of these phrases. The tutor throws out a bunch of examples like, I like it.
Right.
Imagine you're trying a friend's amazing cooking boom. That's your go-to.
Mm.
Or you miss what someone said. You could just politely say, come again.
Exactly. And those phrases, as simple as they seem, they can actually pack a lot of punch. Like, I like it can be anything from mild interest to like really genuine enthusiasm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all in how you say it. Like a casual, I like it versus like a heartfelt, I really like it.
Right.
Those subtle nuances that can just elevate your communication.
That's so true. And what's cool about this video is it's not just telling you the phrases, it's encouraging viewers to actually use them. The tutor asks, like, which phrase will you start using?
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah, it's a simple call to action, but it's building this community feeling among the learners
It's brilliant because it turns passive watching into active learning, you know?
Yeah.
Instead of just absorbing the information, they're actually prompted to go out and apply it.
to actually do something with it.
Exactly. That's what makes it stick.
And speaking of engagement, the comments section on this video is gold. I mean, we see comments like, great way to practice Ayunch. So clearly, people are finding this useful.
It just shows that supportive environment online, right? People are encouraging each other. It's
Yeah.
positive. It's a totally different vibe from like a stuffy classroom.
Absolutely. And the impact goes beyond just encouragement. There's a comment from a teacher. They actually say, I started to work with my students with your phrases, us. This TikTok is actually being used as a teaching tool.
That's amazing.
Right.
It really shows how platforms like TikTok, they're really democratizing learning.
Yeah.
It's becoming accessible and even fun, I would say.
Yeah.
You know, so different from those traditional textbooks.
Huge difference. But, some people might argue that learning through TikTok is, I don't know, a little superficial. What do you think about that?
It's a valid point. I think TikTok is amazing for introducing those concepts, getting you interested, but it's not a replacement for, deeper learning. Think of it more like a gateway.
Yeah.
It sparks your curiosity.
It has you motivated.
Yeah, and then you can delve deeper with more in-depth resources.
So it's all about using TikTok as a tool within your overall learning strategy. It's that spark that really gets you going.
Precisely. It's about finding what works for you, incorporating different approaches to make it, a well-rounded experience.
Totally. And speaking of making things easy to find, we can't forget hashtags. This video uses tags like hashtag vocabulary, hashtag classes, dingles, even hashtag apprendals.
Oh, yeah.
They're like those signposts that guide learners right to the content they need.
Hashtags are amazing for navigating that massive amount of content online, They categorize everything and make it searchable. It's like a digital library where you can instantly find, well, anything you're looking for.
It's wild how much learning can be packed into a single TikTok video. But I'm curious, what about those comments that are just like, wedge on? They seem pretty basic, but they're super common.
Don't underestimate the power of emojis. It's a form of engagement.
Right.
Like, a silent thumbs up.
Yeah.
They're present. They're enjoying it. It's especially important for people who maybe don't feel comfortable writing a whole comment, but they still want to show their appreciation.
Yeah. There's like a virtual high five. It's so interesting to see how people interact online.
Mm-hmm.
It really adds a whole other dimension to the learning.
Absolutely. And it brings us to a really important point. That sense of community that platforms like TikTok create, language learning can feel pretty lonely sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
But these platforms create spaces for learners to connect, share their struggles, celebrate their wins,
Right.
and motivate each other, which can be really powerful, especially if you're learning on your own.
It's like having a study group, but global. This video is a great example of how social media can be a positive force in education. But I do wonder, with so much content out there, how do learners know they're getting good information?
That's where critical thinking comes in. You have to evaluate the source, check the facts, and be wary of things that seem too good to be true.
So it's not just about taking in information, it's about thinking it through.
Exactly, being discerning. Just like you would in any learning setting.
That makes sense. Something else that comes up a lot is how TikTok makes learning fun. But why is that?
It's that mix of entertainment and education, right? The short videos are inherently engaging, and the creators are always finding ways to make it fun, make it memorable. Think catchy songs, funny skits, relatable scenarios.
Yeah, you're getting the good stuff without even realizing it. And it's all visual, which probably helps a lot too, right?
Totally. Visual learning is powerful. You actually see the phrase being used, so it makes it click, you know?
Yeah, much more than just looking up a definition.
Exactly. You get the nuances, the context.
I love how this video and even the comments are giving us this inside look into how online language learning really works.
Yeah.
It's so much more dynamic and engaging than I ever imagined.
See, it really shows how the learning landscape is changing. Those traditional methods are being challenged, complemented by these innovative approaches that work for, all kinds of learners.
It's so exciting to see the possibilities. We've covered a lot of ground already in this first part of our deep dive. But before we jump into some more of these phrases from the video, I want to get your take on something. We talked about the community aspect of online learning, but some people might say it lacks that structure, the accountability of a traditional classroom. What do you say to that?
Oh, for sure. That's a valid point. Online learning is flexible, accessible, but it takes self-discipline, Got to set goals, make a schedule, find ways to stay on track.
Yeah.
The good news is there are tons of online resources and communities to help you do just that.
Yeah, that's reassuring. So it's about finding that balance, using those resources to create an experience that works for you.
Absolutely.
This reminds me of something I struggled with when I was learning Spanish.
Oh, tell me about it. I had a similar experience when...
It's funny how a little TikTok video can get us talking about the future of learning like this, right?
It really is. It shows you how powerful these platforms are, connecting us, educating us, and making us think about learning in a whole new way. But let's get back to those phrases. We were about to dive into some more examples, weren't we?
Right. We were talking about how those really simple phrases can be so much deeper depending on, well, the context and how you say them. So let's try another one. The video mentions, "Where are you?" Like on the surface, pretty basic, but I bet there's more to it.
Oh, definitely. It's a perfect example of how a simple question can mean different things depending on the situation. Like, if you can't find your friend at a concert, where are you? Sounds worried. But if your friend is always late, it's more playful, maybe even a little teasing.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's amazing how much meaning can be packed into 3 little words. And we think about something you mentioned earlier, about how knowing these common phrases can actually make you more confident in conversations.
Exactly. When you're not struggling to remember basic phrases, you can really focus on expressing yourself. Engaging with the conversation on a deeper level. It's like you've got this solid base, and then you can build something more impressive on top of it.
I like that. A solid base makes the whole process feel a bit less daunting. Okay, so here's one that always trips me up. Never mind. I never quite know when to use it.
Never mind. It's tricky. It can mean so many things. It could be a change of mind, like when you realize you don't need that extra coffee after all. Or it could be like dismissing a topic, moving on from a conversation that's getting awkward. And sometimes, yeah, it can even sound a little frustrated, especially if you say it in a certain way.
It's all about context and tone. You can't just memorize the phrase. You have to understand how to use it in different situations. It's like learning the rules of a game before you can really play.
I like that. And, like with any game, practice makes perfect. The more you use them in real conversations, the more they'll just come naturally.
And that's where those online communities we talked about can be so helpful. It's a safe space to practice, get feedback, without feeling like you're being judged.
Absolutely. It takes the pressure off. You can experiment, have fun with it. But it's good to remember, not all online platforms are the same. Some might be better for information or community than others.
Good point. It's about finding the right platform for what you need. And that brings up an interesting thought. Could we see language learning trends on platforms like TikTok? Like similar to those viral challenges we've seen in the past?
Ooh, that's an interesting idea. We've seen how those dance challenges and stuff can just explode. What if we could use that energy for language learning?
Right. Like, imagine a phrase of the day challenge or a language exchange trend where people connect with others from all over the world to practice.
The possibilities are endless, and these platforms are always changing, so who knows what the future holds, right?
It's pretty exciting. But even if those big ideas don't happen, this TikTok video already shows how powerful these platforms can be for making language learning fun and easy to access. It's like a reminder that learning can happen anywhere, anytime. You don't always need a classroom.
Definitely. It shows how creative people can be, finding new ways to teach and entertain. And it reminds us that we can all be teachers in a way, sharing what we know.
Like a ripple effect. One little act of sharing can inspire so many others to start their own learning journey. Which brings us back to those simple comments we were talking about, the dosh and all that.
You know, those emojis, they really mean something. It's engagement, it's encouragement. Don't underestimate them. It's a way for people to connect, show appreciation, feel like they're part of something bigger, especially online where things can feel kind of anonymous sometimes.
It's like a silent affirmation that learning is happening, connections are being made. It's really amazing to see how these online spaces can bring people together, create a supportive community.
That sense of community is so important, especially for people learning on their own. It's a place to ask questions, share struggles, celebrate wins, and, just feel less alone in the whole process.
We often think of language learning as this huge, overwhelming task. But this video kind of breaks it down, doesn't it? It shows us how we can learn these small, manageable chunks.
It's like building a house, brick by brick. Every phrase you learn is another brick in that foundation of fluency. And these platforms give you the tools and the community to build that foundation, one brick at a time.
I like that. It makes it seem less scary, more doable. It's about celebrating those little wins along the way. Every step forward, even a small one, is still progress.
Exactly. And as we keep exploring these phrases and what people are saying in the comments, I think it's important to remember that language learning is about more than just words and grammar rules.
Absolutely. What else should learners be focusing on?
It's about the culture, the humor, all those little nuances that make each language special. It's about connecting with people, understanding different ways of life.
It's about seeing language as a way to open doors to new experiences, new perspectives.
And remember, language is alive. It's always changing. There's always something new to learn, to discover, to get excited about.
This makes me think about how language can help bridge those gaps between cultures. But some people might say that online platforms can also spread misinformation or even lead to cultural misunderstandings. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a valid concern. It's important to remember that not everything you see online is true, And you have to be sensitive to other cultures, double-check information, come from a place of respect.
So it's about using these platforms carefully, ethically, and remembering that language is powerful. It can be used for good or for bad.
For sure. It's up to us to use it wisely, to promote understanding and connection instead of division.
This has been so eye-opening. It's making me feel more confident about my own language learning.
Me too. It reminds you that learning can be fun, engaging, and anyone can do it. All you need is that internet connection and a willingness to learn.
So well said. But we still have a few more phrases to unpack from this video. Let's see, we have see you later, what's up, whole thank you. Wait, hold on, thank you. That one seems pretty basic. Why would the tutor even include that?
You see, thank you might seem obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people have trouble expressing gratitude. And it's not just the words, it's how you say them. Your tone, your body language, all of that plays a part. Plus, different cultures have different ways of saying thank you.
Oh, I see. So even something as simple as thank you can have a lot of depth depending on how you say it. Tell me more about that.
Think about it. A quick thanks is totally different from a genuine thank you so much with a smile and eye contact. And some cultures have special customs for expressing gratitude beyond just words.
That's fascinating. It reminds you that language is about so much more than just words on a page. It's about understanding the culture, those unspoken rules of communication.
Exactly. And those little details, they can make all the difference in how you connect with people, how you navigate different situations.
I love how we keep coming back to cultural awareness. It's so important in language learning. But it also makes you think about the limitations of learning online.
True. Online platforms are great for getting started and sparking your interest, but nothing beats actually experiencing the language and culture firsthand.
So maybe it's about finding that balance. Using TikTok as inspiration to travel, do language exchanges, maybe even look into those cultural immersion programs.
Now that's a great idea. It's about taking the best of both worlds, using different approaches to create your own learning adventure.
I'm so glad we took the time to really dive into this TikTok video.
Yeah.
It's made me think about the future of language learning in a whole new way. The power of online communities, cultural awareness, all of it.
Me too. It shows you that even the simplest things can be surprisingly deep, and how important it is to never stop learning and exploring.
But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's go back to those comments. The Sarn, Henku, we talked about how they show engagement, support, but could they also be kind of superficial? Like a way of interacting without really connecting?
That's an interesting question. It's definitely possible, especially with social media these days. It's easy to focus on likes and followers instead of real connection. But I also think these platforms can be powerful tools for building genuine relationships and having meaningful conversations.
So it's about using them intentionally, focusing on quality over quantity.
Exactly. Remember that behind every profile, every comment, there's a real person with their own thoughts, feelings, and experiences.
This has been so insightful. I'm already thinking differently about how I approach language learning, how I engage online.
Me too. It reminds you that learning should be a journey, online and offline. And every interaction, no matter how small, can teach us something new about ourselves and the world around us.
That's a beautiful thought. On that note, let's take a quick break before we jump into the last part of our exploration. We'll be back soon to unpack some more of those phrases and really delve into what all of this means for the future of language learning. We're back, ready to wrap up our deep dive into this TikTok video. It's amazing how one little video can lead to so much discussion.
Yeah, it really shows how much you can learn just by exploring things online. I mean, we talked about those everyday phrases, those cultural nuances, how social media is changing the way people learn.
And we got all that from just one TikTok and its comments. It shows you how creative people can be and how these platforms connect us, inspire us,
Absolutely. But before we go, I want to go back to something we touched on earlier about how those online communities, they can be so supportive, but could they also become like echo chambers where people only see things from one perspective?
That's a good point. It's a real possibility, especially with those algorithms that feed you what they think you want to see. But I think we could do things to prevent that.
Right. We have to make an effort to see different viewpoints, engage with people who challenge us, make us think differently. It can be uncomfortable sometimes, but it's so important.
It makes me think about that comment we saw, someone saying they were using these phrases to connect with people from all over the world. That's what it's all about. Using language to break down those barriers and build understanding.
It's really powerful how language can create empathy between people, no matter where they come from. And these online platforms give us this incredible opportunity to actually connect with people from all over, to have those cross-cultural experiences.
So how can we all be more mindful about using language to connect with others, whether we're online or offline?
Well, I think it starts with being aware of our own biases, being willing to listen to others, really listen, to learn from those different perspectives, even if we disagree.
It's about being humble, having that genuine desire to connect with people on a human level.
Exactly. We all have something to teach each other, no matter our background, our beliefs, the language we speak.
It's amazing to think how learning a new phrase can open up so many doors. It's about connection, understanding, even personal growth.
It really shows the power of language learning. It's not just about words and grammar. It's about seeing the world in new ways, challenging what we think we know, becoming more open-minded and empathetic.
This deep dive has been so thought-provoking. We started with these simple phrases, and we ended up talking about the future of language learning, the impact of online communities, the role of language in a globalized world.
And it all started with a TikTok video. It reminds you that you never know where learning will take you.
Exactly. So to everyone listening, we encourage you to embrace that journey. Keep learning, exploring, and finding new ways to connect with the world around you.
And maybe you'll even find your own TikTok video that inspires you to dive deep into something new.
Who knows what you'll discover? Thanks for joining us today. Keep those minds curious and keep learning.